Hi everyone, it's 9th of May and we are having a check-in with Stefanos, who has just returned from holiday. So welcome back. Hope you had a great break and yeah, we're happy to have you on board again. I will try to quickly run through our latest initiative updates and our current focus. There are some points that Mark might provide a bit more context, so I will leave that at the end of my update so we can have a little discussion. We had two new joinees. Simon and Alexandru joined the team. So now we have three backend engineers, two front-end engineers. Mark will be saying goodbye to us today. Uh, and Deepika and I will be co-leading the initiative. We started having weekly team sync meetings. We have recordings. If you would like to see the latest two, feel free to have a look. We have a summary of those meetings on Slack as well, because those meetings were quite long. Longer than we expected, but we had a lot of things to discuss. And as you probably see on our doc above, we're trying to experiment with running a weekly confidence check. So we can see if our confidence stays the same, grows, or if we need to signal to Donald or the rest if there are some problems with delivering custom status. In terms of changes, the main focus was on unblocking frontend for 18.1. So there are many either functional or placeholder API changes that we released in the last 2 weeks. And we also there was a discussion and we made a decision that based on our capacity, we won't be introducing support for epics and epics boards. Initially, we wanted to add support for epics and hold off with epic boards, but there were a feedback around custom fields that at the moment we are not able to have custom fields on Epic boards. So the decision is just to treat it as a stretch goal or a fast follow after the iteration too. Yeah, and in terms of the backend focus, we would like to start dogfooding iteration one, which is a task, which is it's pretty late, sorry. System-defined statuses on tasks. And we have two blockers on the backend side at the moment. One is setting the status automatically for open, close, and duplicate actions. So this is the issue that you, Stefano, started working on before your holidays. Mark did a bit of work there, and there will be a handover. And I already saw that. I think you decided to pick it up. So yeah, we can have a chat about that in a moment. And the second blocker, which I will be working on probably later next week, we need to add a new feature flag so we can hide all existing logic and only focus on tasks. So we'll have two flags, our main feature flag that will include everything, status on task issues and legacy issue boards. Yeah, so we want to have this split. So with first our plan stage team, like Gabe and Nick, can start like internal dog fooding, and then we can enable that task-related feature flag for gitlab.org. So we can start gathering feedback, and hopefully we won't find any bugs that we need to fix. Um, cool. And that's yeah, I missed one point. So we have a board uh, with we have an issue board. When we scope only the must-have work, we don't cover any stretch and nice haves there. Um, we would like to aim to, as a backend team, release everything in 18.1. There is a little wiggle room. I had a chat with Donald during the one-on-one. It is okay if some of the issues might roll over to 18.2, but we need to make sure that the API changes are merged in 18.1. And also, um, in terms of the APIs for the lifecycle and status management page, since it's a new page, there won't be any multi-version compatibility issues. So sorry, not Stefanis. Simon is already working on building the front end, and he's working on the proof of concept APIs that Mark introduced. But yeah, at some point, in the new milestone, we need to split those APIs into separate MRs. There might be some small changes in APIs as well. Yeah, I think that's all from the general update. And I think, Mark, if you would like to maybe talk about a bit about that issue about setting status automatically that you worked
Yes.
on.
Yes. Just before, before that, as a heads up, when this is the board, um, I started adding some issues to iteration 3, and unfortunately, they also show up here. So this one, for example, is from iteration 3. So maybe, yeah, this is basically just as a heads up. Like if you add stuff with must have to iteration 3, they will also show up here and might, I don't know, reduce visibility for where this actually falls into. Maybe one could also filter by milestone. I just like saw this and just wanted to flag it so that you are aware. Yeah, current status record on work item and issue creation and update. Um, so what I did there, so I took this over from you, Stephanos, and it took a while, mainly because I didn't work on that all the time. But what I did was how to put that? I changed it so it also updates the current status on update, not only on create. Um, the effect of this is even without a backfill, it would basically backfill current statuses on the go, like similar to what we discussed before. So that took a while to get right because of the tests. We decided to have like a very short-lived feature flag, which adds like a lot of new code paths and also this update thing. So what I just wanted to briefly talk about is, just give me a second. I'll share the other screen. That's probably easier. Because this might also affect your work, Agnes, on this other feature flag. Um, so I found it pretty hard to write tests for this because I just removed my comments, but it's basically like with params, without params, it's licensed, unlicensed, it's with status feature flag on, status feature flag on, and now with the transitions feature flag on, transitions feature flag off. And then you, Agnes, will add with this tasks feature flag on, tasks feature flag off. So this will kind of escalate a little bit. And so what I try to do here is, and I'm not really sure whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, um, I try to only test the paths that make sense, that would ever be accessible in whatever kind of combination you put it. And one other thing, so for example, for the unlicensed version, it's those tests. Um, I could have added specs to cover the case where the work item status feature flag is off. But that's not really necessary because we check both for license and feature flag in the same check. So I basically left those cases out because just the fact that it doesn't have a license won't ever go into that path, that other path, because it kind of, yeah, basically prevents it because it's the same method. Um, so that was my approach here. I don't know whether that makes sense also for you, Agnes, or for you, Stephanos. And the other problem is, it's not really a problem, but you probably get where I'm going to. So these are the specs for the status callback that I just added. The other thing is, mm, how to put that? We have, so because we also need to support the legacy issue update service and the APIs. We basically have cases where we pass a work item object or an issue object. So this is, I wrote this on the merge request, Stephanus, for you. This is something that is still missing in those specs here, that we pass an issue. But I can also like do this in the moment of the meeting, but just as a heads up. But we also basically have the same spec, kind of the same specs now for the create service spec for issues, update service spec for issues. Same idea basically. Oops, where is it? There you go. Same idea, just test those paths that actually make sense because it would just like be too many permutations, just crazy stuff. I didn't find like a real good solution to externalize those specs and reuse them in multiple places. Maybe you have an idea for this, maybe not. I don't know. The other thing that I did, primarily for cases like where we will strip out this feature flag shortly after it's been deployed and we don't see any like issues. I didn't like put those specs into shared examples because we could just like pull those contexts out and ready. Um, yeah, and what's still missing there is specs for the work items services, like update service, create service. Um, so maybe that's just for this merge request. And that's also the reason why it took me basically so long because I was writing specs and realizing, nah, that's not nice. Um, and then I put it aside. Next day, I started getting on it back again and realized, nah, that's not nice. And so that, yeah, I think you basically get my point here. Um,
I was reviewing your changes, Mark, and it was painful for me to review it. So I can only
yes.
imagine how painful it was for you to write that.
Yeah, it didn't get better with the last commit.
Okay. I didn't check the last commit, but I think like I will check later a bit.
Yeah.
I guess like if we can like create a shared spec for everything and pass params in terms of params and issues might
If
work.
that works, yeah.
Like
If that
type,
works,
I think,
awesome.
if we pass params and type, actually, that's the thing what we
Mm,
want. But okay, I will. Don't worry,
yeah.
I will continue on that and try to make try
Yeah.
to.
Maybe not so critical for the status callback spec, but it could be like super useful for the create service, update service specs for issues and work items. That would be super helpful. And I was also thinking of whether we might want to introduce some request specs just to like test the full cycle of it. But maybe that's overkill. I don't know. Whatever you think makes sense here.
I will
Okay.
take a look and let you know.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to like tell you what my thoughts were. Happy with whatever you take it from there.
And
Yeah,
just
makes
to
sense.
Mm. adding so many new specs, I feel that I will wait later in the week, like next week, with adding that new feature flag for like task related stuff,
Mm,
because then we'll be having
mm,
so much conflict. And like
I
once
think
we
that
add
makes
new
sense.
feature flag, like we will break many things.
Mm,
So I will wait.
yes. Yes, you will likely break all the things because that merge request basically rewrites all the specs that currently exist. And so it would probably just be a mess.
Like it.
Yeah, the next one is status widget to issue work items. That's a fun one actually, because there were like spec failures and I don't really know why. That's pretty interesting. Let me just share my screen again. I don't know who wants to take that over. Initially, this was the merge request that added the status widget to both issues and epics. That was just a few hours. I just put it up a few hours before there was the decision to not include epics. So I removed epics again, but since then pipeline failures occur. And the funny thing is, if I debug them also in my local test database, epics do have the status widget, which is a little bit strange, although I reset that twice, the database, but still epics get the widget. I don't know. So maybe whoever picks it up, heads up. I don't know what's going on there. Like from from a feature perspective, it's pretty straightforward. It just adds the widget to issues. It used to also add it to epics, but it doesn't do that anymore. So this is not this one. The migration is basically the most interesting part. There were some related spec failures because we relied on issues as an unsupported type to check for unsupported types. I picked requirement as a new one because it's unlikely that they will receive a status. And there also was the discussion that we both had, Agnes and I, about maybe taking that merge request as a good point to extend the test coverage in several places to also support or to also check for unsupported types. But I would consider that as an optional thing. But if it just like works, awesome. If it doesn't, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
even added a comment where we
yeah,
test or where we handle different type
mm,
checks. Yeah, I
yeah, I
think
fixed this one. Yeah.
yeah, I might be able to pick it up because Deepika will need that widget for the UI work as
Mm.
well.
And it
Yeah, and
might
it's
also be good when you introduce this other feature flag to have this in as something like a, hey, my new feature flag actually works because there are two types that have the widget.
so we would need to merge that first. Like I would need to focus on that first before adding that task feature flag.
Yeah, maybe if that makes sense, if that makes things easier because you could just add some specs to test whether this feature flag affects issues. That was
That,
just like in my mind. Yeah. Let me just go ahead and assign this to you. Um,
yeah, please do.
mm, it could make sense. Yeah. Okay. Next one up is yeah, close and reopen current status transition. I just did nothing there, Stefano. So you basically get it back, the same status that you gave it to me. I just took a look at it. But it might make sense to finish this create current status record on work item, etc. first because of all these like spec reorganization and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I will do this and then I will continue. I've been like I just opened this draft MR just because I made some research on which place is
mm,
actually happening the update. So
mm,
yeah, I will just continue after because I think like
yeah.
once we have the yeah once we have actually no maybe this yeah actually no it's not related to the services but I think like we just need some how to handle the
Mm.
the status. So it shouldn't be that
I
hard.
I guess the callbacks are a good place. I'm just a little bit concerned. Not that they are like doing too much, but the nice thing is it's just one single place, and one place where it's complex is always better than 30 places where it's complex. But yeah, it might be useful to refactor that thing a little bit then.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I just wrote it down basically for completeness, the custom status management API proof of concept. Depending on whether you decide to continue work on the proof of concept to put it in a place where one could tear those pieces apart, or just stop work on the proof of concept and directly transfer those things into a merge request. Whatever works for you. I also don't know whether Alexandru wants to add his research and exploration for the on-demand migration logic into the POC, or whether he wants to build on top of other existing merge requests. I have basically no idea. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think I will try to coordinate that work. I had a chat with Deepika this morning, uh, that she had a chat with Simon, and it would be good to start moving APIs into separate MR so Simon
Mm,
can start splitting the UI work as well. So I feel that like next week for you, Stefanos, like you already as a have an issue to work on. There are, I think, 4 tasks as part of that issue. I have my plate full as well with other work and the handover tasks from Mark. So maybe later this week, Stefanos and I can have a chat,
mm,
I async or sync, and we can have a look at those APIs that Simon needs.
mm.
Um, yeah, and I also left a comment for Simon that we might not be able to get into that work until the end of the week because
Would it have? Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
I think that dog fooding might be like our goal for now to unblock it, but at the same time, we also need those API to start appearing in the wild.
Yeah, it's
Um,
pretty interesting because there are kind of separate rail tracks that need to be fed in parallel.
also trying
Um,
to pick out with board lists. That's
boards,
the
yeah, boards too.
one. Yeah, it's been
Um,
busy.
honest question, because a couple of days ago, I asked this Simon whether he would like to have a separate merge request for the lifecycle query so he could build on top of that. Um, would it help you if I spent like the last couple of hours of my day to start work on that? Or would it help you more if I take a look at the widget on issues thing as like the last things that I do today? Um, do you have any preference? Or if not, I would probably take a look at the lifecycle query. So there's like a stat. I don't know. Does anyone of you have a strong opinion or any opinion?
The status widget will help unblock Deepika.
Hmm.
The lifecycle APIs will help unblock Simon.
It's
Um,
awesome. This is like a decision, like the foundation for decisions that we basically had the last couple of weeks. Like, yeah, it's that and that.
But I guess the life cycle it's gonna be bigger, so maybe it's not enough time. So I think that maybe the widget will be fast, like easier to do.
Depends on how like debugging goes.
True.
Yeah, for the lifecycle thing, I thought about, yeah, maybe I could just like strip things out, and if I get a chance to like start working on specs, fine. If not, also fine. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe let's try to focus on like the most important specs, and if there are any like remaining ones, create a follow-up issue and assign me, and I will try to like add those additional tests later or as
Yeah,
part of your.
it won't get merged, right? So when I put this one up, I would probably assign it to one of the two of you, and then you could
It's
take it from there and add the like missing specs, maybe. Is anyone like in favor of receiving that, or should I just like add the both of you as assignees and then you, I don't know, play scissors and rocks, whoever takes that on? How's that called
I'm
in English? Scissors, rocks, and what's the other one? Paper?
yeah, I'm happy to be included on that status widget.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say like whatever you are assigned right now, maybe try to unassign yourself and either assign both of us or just leave it open and we can figure it out later. I mean, as long as I'm on the
Okay,
board,
sounds good.
as long as they're on the board, like we'll find a way
Hmm.
to.
Okay, sounds good. I think that's number four, right? Now we have number five, which is like recommended new issues for Stefanos.
We like partially touch on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I think like I will continue with these two tasks that I have, plus like two issues plus the task. So I think should be busy for next week. But if
Mm,
I finish early and not have to fix 10,000 specs or add specs, if something is like unassigned, then I can take it. So don't worry. If we keep let's keep the importance a bit on from top to the
mm.
bottom. If something is, I will just take it if I have time.
I that the issue board is like currently the issues are in the correct order based on
Mm.
priority. So yeah, feel free to pick up anything that is on top without any assigning.
Just as a heads up again for this webhook thing, I just wrote it down like let's just ensure we keep track this issue in mind because it's like so easy to let this slip through because it's not very visible. We had this a couple of times. We also had this with epics, and it wasn't a big deal actually to make this happen. And in brackets, maybe it also just happens out of the box. I have no idea. Maybe that's one thing I could check before I wrap up. Um, yeah, we could theoretically schedule it for 18.2 because it doesn't affect any front-end work. Um, yeah, okay.
That's good.
So I guess that's number five. We handled six,
Yeah.
and that means we can stop the recording, right?
Yes.